If there's one common race mistake that a lot of people don't talk about, it's actually how they warm up. Lots of people aren't doing it properly. By the end of this video, you'll know my 4-step guide on how to warm up effectively, compete at a higher level, and also feel better in your sessions and, again, also races as well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I feel like over time we really get into a routine and we never actually question why we're doing stuff, and also feel like what we know is the best way and never really challenge our mindset and stuff. So this video is pretty much to open people's minds to see what else is out there in terms of how you can warm up. And this is just my take, and I guess everyone still will have individual nuances and situations. So you'll probably just have to take my advice and then adjust it to how it works best for you, I guess. I feel like over the years we've really developed this sort of understanding of this one warm-up method. That may be different for everyone, but you kind of just stick to it and you never really question whether this is the most effective way to do it. A few years ago, I started questioning, do I really feel good after this warm-up? What is the best way to warm up? And I've realized that with what I know now, I was actually really smart and I intuitively worked out what's best for me to do in a warm-up. And the main difference I'll talk about in this video and the recommendation I'll make in terms of warm-up compared to what a lot of other people do is including a bit of threshold in the warm-up. So a few years ago, I was warming up for my 5K race and I did a 15-minute jog and then a few strides, and I was like, wait, I actually don't feel primed. I don't feel exactly ready to race yet. And the next time I raced, I actually did this experiment where I do like 600 meters at like threshold and see what that feels like. But at the time, I didn't really think of it as threshold. It was more like, I need to run a little quicker to actually feel better, because I've just been running super slow in the warm-up and then super fast and nothing in between. There's nothing to kind of bridge that gap. And intuitively, I was like, I need to do something in between, maybe a little closer to 5K pace or 5K effort sort of thing. And yeah, I feel like I did that for my next race and I felt a lot better. But ever since then, I've just done this weird sort of easy jog straight into like a bit more of a pickup. And recently I've developed that even more into something like a 2x2 minutes with 45-second jog in between. But yeah, I guess there's a lot of ways to do it and we'll go into those details. But first of all, I want to give a bit of context on why we should do threshold in the warm-up. This isn't really to say that you shouldn't do a lot of the things that you normally do. I think easy jog and then drills and strides, they're still really important, but it's also important to fit in a threshold somewhere. And the order that I would do it in personally is I would start with an easy jog, then I would do threshold of some sort, and then I would do drills, and then I would do strides. So all 4 of them kind of in that order will help you perform the best, in my opinion. Now what the easy jog does is obviously raise your heart rate a tiny bit, not too much though, and also it's going to increase your muscle temperature, and also it's going to slowly start to make your oxygen consumption a bit higher. But not enough, because it's too low intensity. We're nowhere near our race intensity. And if you go straight from that to race intensity, you will definitely shock the system. You want to actually prime your body to be ready to handle the race demand, which is a higher heart rate and all that. What I personally tend to do is add a bit of threshold. It could be anything. It could be 2x60 seconds with a 30-second jog. It could be 2x2 minutes with a 45-second jog. It could just be a straight up 3 minutes at a slightly lower sub-T sort of effort. But I guess it does depend on what the race distance is and I guess what you best adapt to. So you're gonna have to experiment with a few different stuff, but I think that trying a ton of stuff and seeing what works for you is the best. Basically, you want to do anywhere between 1 to 4 minutes of threshold in the warm-up to kind of prime your body to feel better. What this does is it's going to increase your oxygen consumption even more and get it to closer to like a 5K demand. Also, it's going to increase your heart rate a bit more, which is also very good. A lot of people think that having a low heart rate at the start of the race is good, but in reality, you actually want your heart rate to be quite high. And the reason for this is because there's always that deficit between intensity and oxygen delivery if you have a lower heart rate, and we want to make sure the oxygen delivery is matching our race intensity right from the start. So it's actually good to elevate the heart rate and be ready before you get into the 5K race. Obviously, having a low heart rate is a good fitness indicator in training, but when you're racing, you want to be able to transport oxygen very efficiently to the muscles and therefore utilize that oxygen to help out with your performance. So I think you should think of it that way. Same with the glycolytic or lactate system. You want to start firing the lactate shuttles and also slightly elevate the lactate levels. This is going to help your body not be in shock when you start the race. And you're probably more likely to spike your lactate if you go straight from like a resting value into like a fast race start. So it's really important to do a bit of threshold to raise that a little bit so it's not as much of a shock when you start the race. So now I talked a bit about the benefits, the increase in lactate, the increase in oxygen consumption, and also probably warming up your body a little bit more as well, and getting your body used to what sort of intensity you're going to be running at the race. Obviously, a lot of my channel is focused on 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon, and I guess fast ultras, which is what I like to do. So it's kind of relevant for that sort of race range, I guess. Now, moving on from the threshold, we're now talking about, drills. And what the drills does is obviously increase that neuromuscular activity. We're trying to get a better connection between our nervous system and our motor units, I guess, controlling the activation of the muscle. So we want to get that firing properly, and therefore you're going to be more neuromuscularly efficient when you start the race. It's not going to be, again, a shock to the body. So yeah, that's just your ability to, be really in sync with your body, I guess. And also make sure that you're running with good form and all that, so you're activating the right muscles. And then finally, once you've primed everything, it's probably a good time to do strides, to do those finishing touches. Again, strides are also going to have that neuromuscular benefit. And therefore you kind of covered all bases by doing an easy jog, threshold, drills, and then strides. Because the drills are working on form, the strides are getting ready for the highest intensity, priming that anaerobic system. Easy jog, increase your heart rate, threshold, prime the body a little bit more in terms of the lactate system, oxygen consumption, and all that. So yeah, you covered all bases, and you can go into the race feeling confident that you've ticked all the boxes, and then you'll be able to perform well. Another thing I'd like to touch on in terms of warming up is the duration and, how much to do, I guess. But yeah, this kind of depends on the person as well. I think everyone takes a different amount of time to warm up, which is why I don't want to give like a cookie cutter exact way to warm up, because it's not going to work for everyone. But if you follow that general structure, it'll be good. However, depending on the race, you may want to consider different durations of warm-up. So the shorter the race, typically I'd want to warm up a little bit more. Because of the higher intensity, I really want to make sure that I'm genuinely ready and primed and ready to go. Whereas if it's obviously a lower intensity marathon or ultra marathon, like relatively low intensity, I would want to be a little more chill and also fresh as well, in a sense. So you don't want to do like a 5K warm up for a marathon, I'd say. I think if I were to race a marathon, I'd probably only jog like a K to a K and a half. And then again, I'll do a little bit of a threshold, but I might do the threshold at more of an LT1 sort of thing. Whereas if it's a 5K race, then I'd probably do the threshold at more of like an LT2 effort. But again, what you do in the threshold doesn't really matter. Try and experiment, do different stuff. But typically the reps should be like 60 seconds or 400 meters or 600 meters at most, I would say. But you could do more if you really wanted to. But it just kind of depends. I'd say if I'm doing a 5K race and it's not like my A race, then I wouldn't even mind doing a whole kilometer at between LT1 and LT2 to kind of prime the body a bit. But if I'm really focused on the race, probably sounds a bit risky, so I'd rather split the K into like a 3 by 45 seconds or something like that with a 15-second jog in between, just to break it up a bit. Yeah, I think to each their own. Anyway, I hope this was kind of useful. I think this might be a shorter video than normal, but I thought that it's worth making a whole video about. I did touch on this tip in another video recently, but I know that not everyone watched that video. But if you are a big fan of what I talk about, then make sure to watch a lot of my videos, because I do give quite niche tips in different videos here and there. Even in the random vlogs, I sometimes try and add that little bit of a golden nugget kind of tip, I guess. But eventually I'll make like a whole video on every single topic anyway, so if you're subscribed, then you're probably not going to miss out on that, so don't worry too much. But yeah, again, if you like the video, like, comment, and subscribe. As always, there's a buy me a coffee link in the description. This is just an easy way to support the channel with like $5 or any increment of $5, I guess. And I guess that mostly goes to reinvest into the channel, into like running gear or camera gear, or if not, then it's gonna go into paying for my rent and stuff, which I definitely need as a uni student, I guess, and providing free content on YouTube. But yeah, hope you enjoyed as usual, and I'll see you in the next video.